as a genuine religious Jew, how much is a human life worth to you? But isn't the goal of Israel like ultimately just imperialism, expanding? I am, to an extent, in support of what Hezbollah has done.
Most people I debate have no skin in the game. You're somebody who's lived through bombings and lost friends, and yet you approach this conversation in probably one of the most open and respectful ways that I've experienced on here.
Niemals, Digga, ich hab den getroffen, Digga.
Ah, we speak in German. That's not good.
Ja, ja. Warum nicht gut, Digga?
انت تتكلم انجليزي؟
Was?
انت
saying,
تتكلم
bro?
انجليزي؟ انت Muslim.
I'm Turkish, brother. I'm Turkish.
What language do you pray in? What language do you read Al-Quran in? Arabic. Yes. Some of
Yeah, what
Yahudi I'm
language
speaking
you
to in
pray in?
Arabic. The language of Musa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ivrit.
You like Rage Vader #1, bro. I love it, bro.
So, bro, let's
Genuinely, your shit is studied, bro. I love you.
let's learn some Islam together.
Are you
bro.
British? Are you British, bro?
And Israeli. I'm from Israel.
No. Okay, wait. Yeah, your heritage. Genuinely be honest with me.
So I'm mixed. I've got British and Ashkenaz, Jewish.
Yeah, okay. I could hear the British accent. That's right.
Yeah. So here's my question to you, bro. You like Al-Quran?
Go
yeah?
on, bro.
You like the Quran,
Of
yeah?
course, brother.
Subhanallah.
Yeah.
And so, in the Quran...
Are you questioning me about religion or about politics now? Go on.
They're the same thing, bro.
Now, be honest.
Allah.
Is any Muslim country out there actually implementing Sharia to the actual extent that it should be?
La, because if they would, they'd be Sahyuni.
Sayuni.
So here, we're gonna learn some. We're gonna learn Quran, Habibi. Calm down. In English.
Okay,
English or
go
Arabic.
on.
أعوذ
bro.
بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
No,
بسم
we
الله
speak
الرحمن الرحيم.
Yehudit.
الرحمن الرحيم.
Hashem ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
وقلنا من باره لبني إسرائيل اسكنوا الأرض. Oh, is the ayah? وقلنا
No, your
من
pronunciation is off. bro.
وقلنا من باره
No.
لبني فلسطين
No,
اسكنوا الأرض.
wait. Fix the pronunciation. Say it again. But
Okay, you
actually
say the ayah better than me then. If you're the
No, bro,
sheikh,
come on. It's not fun.
Sheikh,
It's not
sheikh,
fun if you
sheikh,
do it. You
sheikh.
look at me, bro. Am I a sheikh?
sheikh,
don't even
come
have
on,
a beard.
recite the Quran.
Come on, my
better than
Jewish
me.
brother. Say it.
Recite it better than وقلنا
Come on,
من باره
you
لبني
get
إسرائيل
hasana. You get
اسكنوا
hasana,
الأرض.
brother.
Okay, tell you what. Let's listen to a recite. If my recitation isn't good enough, we'll go to Quran and see what Quran says. Yeah? Let's see, bro. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're
No, your pronunciation is off, but it might be correct. It is correct, actually.
Israel.
He's Pakistani.
اسكنوا الأرض. So tell me, bro. Is that Benny Palestine?
Okay, now look. Let's not switch the narrative. You and me are not dumb, brother.
I
Look,
know.
I
I'm
have
not. I've
nothing-
just met you. I've just met you. Hopefully,
no.
no.
But let's just speak to each other. Look, let's be honest. What Israel is currently doing in certain Palestinian areas is not acceptable.
So I ask you a question, a very, very basic question. Does
go
anything
on.
happen without it being the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Okay, now this is a very important question. You will very much take it out of context because you did not grow up as a Muslim. We have certain things that are left up to qadar. Qadar is basically the free will of a human being. While we have certain things that have been written since the creation of everything. Kun fayakun. Listen to me. Don't shake your head.
No, I'm listening.
Okay. Now, these things, you can never understand what God Almighty truly wants or what things are supposed to be. We as Muslims believe that humans are not a perfect being, so we can never understand what the high and almighty being wants to tell us or how he created the world.
That was
So, in
beautiful,
that
but I've got
sense-
it's a yes/no answer. Can anything happen?
No,
without
it's
it
not a
being the
yes
will
no
of
answer
Allah?
because your question is basically like a circular.
It's a yes or no answer. Either
No. It is not. Some
Either
answers
everything
do
is
not
the-
require a yes or no.
that's literally a binary.
Go on.
Because it either everything is the will of Allah, or not everything is the will of Allah. Some
Is
things
it the
are
will of
Allah.
Hashem?
Hashem Allah is the same. La ilaha illallah.
No. Okay, is it the will of Hashem? Because you're mentioning.
I
Allah, you could have
believe-
said Hashem.
I believe it's the will of Hashem. Yes.
Okay, so when the 6 million Jews sadly got massacred, is it the will of Hashem?
No, it's full on shirk. It's full on shirk to say that things can happen against the will of Hashem.
Okay, brother, I'm gonna be as respectful as I can. You do not get to tell me what shirk is and what isn't. Because shirk, if you truly know what shirk is taking anyone other than God as ultimate being. And by
And
believing
you
that
are
some
doing that.
form
If you
of
are saying
Allah-
that, if you are saying that there is a force
Don't
outside
twist
of
it.
Allah
Don't twist it.
subhanahu wa
Don't
ta'ala,
twist it.
you're saying there's a
Don't
force
twist
outside
it.
of it.
Don't
So
twist
it's
it.
either the will
force
of Allah
was
or it
created
isn't.
by God. Qadar is created by God.
So you believe that things can happen against Allah's will.
No, of course not.
Then
these
it's His
things
will.
are left up to us. Some things are left up to us. Just
That's
imagine
fine, but
a
it's
tree
still
with different
Allah's
branches.
will.
Can I
It's still
complete my
His
sentence?
will. It's still
Can
His
I
will.
complete my sentence? Okay, it's cool. Okay, whatever you want. Are you happy now?
We're in agreement. You had too big an ego to admit it.
No, brother. We're not
And,
in
and
agreement, but it's
laughing
all
won't
right.
save you from the hellfire.
That was not funny.
We'll say my audience thinks it's funny, bro. That's a very realistic laugh, by the way. That is,
Wait,
guys.
hold on.
Have we
Wait,
seen
one
a laugh
second.
at this
I
realistic?
beg you, 1 second. Hey, come here, I beg you, bro. I beg you, come here. Come. Listen. Okay, you know this guy? Have you seen him on TikTok?
No,
Okay, go on. Say whatever you said just now again.
I can't hear him.
Okay.
Yeah, you can now.
Your friend was explaining to me. Your friend,
Yeah.
the sheikh to the left of you was explaining
Shit,
to me.
I never claimed to be a sheikh, by the way.
Hang on.
Was
Let me pause the
explaining to
television.
me.
I'll be back. 1 second.
Okay, we're back, brother. I genuinely want to hear this. Get a chair, genuinely, because this is funny as fuck.
So your friend was explaining Islam to me. I'm new. I'm just a simple Yahudi.
No,
And I was-
he is not, bro. I've seen you on TikTok. I beg you.
I'm just a simple Yid, simple Yahudi. And I
A
was
simple
asking,
Yahudi, by the way. The word choice is crazy. I mean, you could have just said, I'm a simple person going into it.
لا أنا يهودي فخور
studying
حبيبي.
Islam.
أنا يهودي
Okay,
فخور.
proud. Be proud of it.
And so I was asking your friend, can anything happen that isn't the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And he explained to me how within Islam, not everything is the will of Allah. Some of it is the will of man. And that sounded like
I
shirk.
told them there is qadar and there is the maktub.
Yeah.
Can it happen
And he
against
just twisted
the
it
will
around just now.
of... Simple yes or no. Can anything happen against Allah's will? Yes or no?
Do you want to answer that or I answer?
I tried to explain it with a branch of a, what's it called? Like a tree.
Yeah.
He wouldn't listen.
Simple answer. Direct answer. No.
Everything is the will of Allah, yeah?
Yes.
MashaAllah. Habibi, see how easy it
The
is.
will of Yahweh, oh.
Yeah. I don't get it.
Bro,
The
what was that? What was that 15-minute monologue? What was that ego?
No, it was
Bro,
not.
you have
It was
to
not. It
release
was
the
just
ego.
genuinely
You
do
have
not
to
listen
release the
to whatever
ego.
I'm saying.
He said
Like,
everything
this
is...
could have been done in 5 minutes, but you don't want to listen.
Bro, we've
Wait,
got
show
the
me that
clip.
merch. That merch looks sick, brother. Show me.
You get your
Oh, where can I call
Sayuni-
that, bro? Where can I get
the
that?
IsraelAdvocacy.net. Not only that,
Oh,
if you can't afford the merch, the best way that you can help the channel is by smashing that subscribe button and hitting like. Because I know most of you watching aren't subscribed. So my Turkish brother is helping me out. He's plugging the merch and he's plugging the channel. So if you want to learn more about Islam, if you want to learn about how to be a true Sahyuni, then like and subscribe. Inshallah.
Exactly. Inshallah, this guy reaches 1 million.
Inshallah. I mean, we're not far away. We've got
Oh, I know you're
600,000
a
at the
small-time
moment.
creator. Hopefully
Small
you
time?
will reach that.
1 million people will watch this video, bro. But that's only small
It's
time.
all right. It's all right. It's all right, brother. No need to cope.
You look like you're a streamer
Cope,
yourself, bro.
you're
You
literally
look like a streamer yourself. How many
I
subs
look
you
like
got,
a
bro?
streamer. No
Yeah.
way, brother. No.
Well, inshallah, this will help. This will help you on your journey. Introduce
Ben
you to a little
Yahudi.
fame.
Yahudit.
Inshallah,
Ben
Yahudi.
Yahudi,
Inshallah, you take the Jewish Shahada. La ilaha illallah.
What
Musa.
Jewish I can't even join
Musa
your religion if I
Rasul
wanted to,
Allah.
bro.
Of course you
If
can.
you know a contact I can contact, bro, like you can get me into Judaism. How much do I have to pay?
It's very easy to convert to Judaism, Habibi.
Come on, tell me.
Okay, you study for many years. You learn the laws. And then you
But
go
I'm
before
not
a
born
bit.
of Jewish descent.
The Messiah, Dawood, King David descends from a convert, bro. You can convert to Judaism. The Messiah will descend
I
from a
can
convert.
convert to Judaism.
Yes, of course, bro.
According to who?
Every single rabbinic authority.
Aren't you guys like the chosen people?
Yes, but you can convert and join it. We're like any other
But I'm
people.
not
You can
part
join
of the
us.
chosen people, bro.
Yeah, but then
Okay,
you'll marry
hang
a
on.
nice Jewish girl and your children will be.
One second. Regarding that term, the chosen people, are you the chosen people to follow God's commandments, or are you the chosen people, meaning you are superior to the Goyim, or to those who are not Jews?
Yeah, Goyim!
it's the
Atta Goyim!
Enta kafir. Same concept.
Atta Kanam!
So to answer your question, chosen means we were chosen to spread Tawheed to the nation, to the Goyim, to spread Tawheed, spread monotheism. That's our
And
mission.
assuming those said Goyim do convert, are
No, they
still
don't. No, they don't need to convert. We don't believe to get to Jannah you need to convert. You just need to believe
Yeah.
La ilaha illallah.
Do you
live
have a
good life.
hell in Judaism?
Kind of, but it's not like in Christianity. It's a different
Can you
concept.
explain
It's-
it?
So hell for Judaism is not eternal.
So it's not. There's eternal like obliteration, like your soul is destroyed, you cease to exist. But hell is a temporary place where there's a refinement process to go over the.
Okay,
Where-
what is for me? What's looking out for me?
Bro,
if I say
only, Allah, only God knows. Only God sees into your heart and
Allahu
sees the deeds. that you do.
A'lam.
Alam. Only God knows. Only God sees into your heart.
Exactly, brother. But no, according to Judaism.
According
Come
to
on, you had
Judaism,
3,000
inshallah.
years to search for
According to
answers, bro.
Judaism, inshallah, you get Jannah. Inshallah.
Jannah? Me?
Yeah, inshallah.
As what? Come
As
on,
a
explain it to
Muslim.
me.
As a Muslim.
I want to know what my rights are.
So Judaism
Do I have the
basically
rights?
has. Yeah, I'm explaining to you, bro. I'm explaining to you.
Go
So
on.
Judaism. Hopefully, the hottest thing you ever experience is that cigarette, not Jahannam. Inshallah.
Okay.
And so.
Unnecessary comment, but go on.
No, it's a very nice comment. I said the hottest thing you should ever experience is that burning cigarette. So in Judaism, there's 7 basic laws for the nations, which are Tawheed, believe in God. Don't rip a limb from a living animal and eat it. You don't do that. You have halal. Don't set up courts. You have
Kosher,
Sharia
kosher.
courts. So don't steal. Don't have immoral relationships. So Islam, Muslims, as long as they're not going crazy, inshallah they get Jannah. Inshallah.
What does going crazy mean?
I don't know. Well, what do you think going crazy
No, go
means?
on, bro. You said
Yeah,
going
I'd say
crazy.
I'd say look at Daesh. I'd say Daesh went a bit crazy.
No, come on, bro. Are you PR trained? Explain.
I am. I'm saying Daesh. I imagine we'll get Jahannam.
Oh gosh.
Abu Bakr.
Daesh.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
Do you genuinely believe that they are Muslim?
It's not for me to make takfir. Allah.
Wow, this guy is like
He is.
genuinely trained, brother. Oh my god. Is it the 7,000 per post?
Bro, we got a lot more than 7,000. We're not Muslim. We're Jewish.
Get me in on it, bro. I am Jewish as of today.
Well, you don't have to be Jewish for
okay.
the 7,000, bro. You don't have to be Jewish.
And in the Torah, or in whichever is the main book.
The Torah. Yeah, Torah is
Yeah.
my book.
what are like your rules on self-defense or on waging war, conquest,
The
etc.?
basic principle in Judaism when it
Because
comes
you know,
to
like
law.
this is eventually going to get into what Israel is doing.
Yes,
I'm not
we
gonna,
can,
like,
we
beat
can go.
around
We can
the
go
bush.
to we can go to
It's just
Israel.
self-defense and whatnot.
The basic rule in Judaism is that if someone rises up to kill you, kill them first.
Okay.
That's the basic principle. But when it comes to war, there's two types of war. There's those that are divinely ordained. So you have to have a prophet like Moses who receives prophecy, nevuah, from HaKadosh
Exactly.
Baruch Hu, from Allah. We don't have that today. So then we're governed by the basic rules of law, which are very different. So if Allah says we have to do something, we have to do something. Today,
Just
no one's speaking to
don't
Allah.
do that, bro. Like genuinely, don't do that. Just say Yahweh.
Bro, you were just saying
Or
Hashem
Hashem.
2 minutes ago.
Whatever
You were
you
saying,
want, bro.
you were
Just
just saying
don't say
Hashem.
Allah.
So you can say Hashem, but I can't say Allah. What kind of
I've never said
munafiq-
Hashem
What
in
kind of
reference to Islam, bro.
what
No,
kind
no,
of
no, we're not-
you do
I never
realize
said Hashem
you
in
do
reference
realize
to
that one of
Islam.
our names for God is Allah. You do realize is where you get the name from is from Hebrew and Aramaic, two of our languages.
Okay, I'll say one thing. Now, Hebrew, it is of the same family tree. It is not what's it called? What do you call like
It's
a
a Semitic
derivative of
language.
Hebrew? Arabic is not a
We
derivative.
are
of-
Semitic languages. That's
Yes,
what it's
exactly.
Yeah, I just said I agree with you. But a lot of
You said it in
Islam,
a way that
literally, if you
Arabic
read
is
the
a
Quran,
derivative
if you
of
read the
Hebrew.
Quran literally says it affirms the Torah constantly.
No.
No, I want to though. Honestly,
It's good clip farming.
it doesn't matter. I want to. Okay, and
No, we've already got our clips. We've already got 1 million views on one of those clips, inshallah.
Yeah, I know, brother. But you know, it's never this big meeting a person like you, bro. I love Hashem for this, bro. He gives me the chances, you know.
Yeah, taking steps towards Jannah, mashallah. Baby steps, but we're going in the right direction. To love the
To
Creator.
keep on like a serious note, I mean, you seem like a sensible person. Don't you think there are many stuff, but for the sake of the conversation, some stuff that the IDF has done that is non-Judaic or that is condemnable by someone
So
like you?
first and foremost, the IDF is not a Jewish army, like in terms of Jewish law.
I understand that,
It's-
but
it's-
they're doing
it's-
it under the
Israel's a
guise
secular state.
of Jewish values.
So
and
what
it's
I would
the-
say, so what I genuinely believe is there will be individuals who've done things that are beyond the pale, and I would free
Atrocious.
myself from. The IDF itself has a very strict code of conduct, and I believe it's moved mountains to protect Gazan civilians. Tragically, because it's a war and it's a very densely populated area, civilians have died, women have died, children have died, and that's tragic. I'm a father. I've got young girls, and their lives are the same value as their child from Gaza. And I'm not going to defend. I'm not going to defend war. I'm not going to defend children dying. I will defend my military keeping my family safe, 100%, and I will protect the good things that they do to keep civilians and children safe in Gaza.
Agreed.
But I'm not
Agreed.
going to defend every single action of every single soldier, because absolutely there will be soldiers that would do things in a war on any side that would turn my stomach, because it's war, and Israel is an army that's made up of everybody in the country. From someone who's a
Is
super
Israel a
peace-
secular state, by the way?
Israel is majority secular. Most people believe in God.
No, I
Um,
mean
The church is
what is it
separate. The
based
synagogue's
off of?
separate. Yeah, 100%. It's a secular.
It's a secular state.
But it protects religious rights. So Muslims, there's 2 million Muslims here. There's 7 million Jews here, and we have complete.
You know, I've met a
equality
lot of Arab 48s, is what you call them.
So some of them call themselves 48. Some of them call themselves Israeli. Some of them call themselves Palestinian. It depends on the Arab.
Exactly.
Yeah. It is a very complex place with complex identities. There's been a 60% increase in Muslims signing up to the army after October the 7th. And they will have family, no doubt, in Gaza.
Okay, but realistically, apologies, but like realistically, don't you think that is conformity rather than actually seeking justice or actually seeking defense of the country? Because look, we have to be honest to a certain extent. The Muslims are scrutinized against, and it would seem like a person who is in a nearby an active war zone to conform and to join the army rather than them and their family being persecuted either judicially or by arms.
Maybe
this
you're right.
6% increase-
Maybe you're right, but also maybe they saw Hamas coming in on October the 7th and butchering Muslims. They killed Muslims when they came over. They killed
And
Bedouin.
here's the
They killed
thing, like
Muslims.
here's the thing. Me I will condemn these actions. Like, I know that phrase has been going around and it becomes sort of brain rot. I will condemn. Guerrilla tactics were used. Innocents were definitely killed.
Yeah.
For me, at least, that does not represent me or the religion that I follow. But when you say that Israel at the end is trying to defend its people, and that is something that any reputable state should do, but it is really a one-sided war. Hamas is a makeshift army. They are not trained properly. They do not know actual tactics to, like, let's say, to a professional extent, right? It's composed of rookie and makeshift and like just guerrilla tactics. And when the area you're targeting or waging war against is the most densely populated area, and the constant bombardments and military attacks, like, to a certain extent, there are not Hamas members in that area anymore. It is genuinely just civilians and babies. And yes, let's look at it that when they grow up, they will have some hate against Israel. They will want to scrutinize you and persecute you the same way they felt they were persecuted and scrutinized against. But I mean, can you blame them at that point? No, I'm not agreeing with their actions. I'm not condoning it.
The last point I actually agree with you on. I think I speak to lots of Gazans, and the thing I hear the most frequently from Gazans today is we hate Hamas, we hate Israel. And I get that, because Israel and Hamas are who's fighting, and that's why their houses have been destroyed. The first point I disagree with, and I'll explain why I disagree with it. I think Israel has gone to great lengths to empty neighborhoods of civilians. So if you look anywhere on the Israeli side of the yellow line, most of the buildings have been destroyed or damaged. The United Nations.
Okay, let him finish.
I know, I understand, but I understand, but like, refute this point because it pertains to yours. Before we get carried along with the conversation, there have been numerous digital evidence and video recordings of Israel doing that, telling these civilians to evacuate and then bombing the area to which they're evacuating to. This is not hearsay. This is actual stuff that has happened. How do you confront that?
So I can't confront it. And so. It's a simple exercise. It's 70% of the buildings, according to the United Nations, have been damaged or destroyed. 70% of the population, if they were in the buildings, which is where you find people, would be 1.4 million. So you'd expect there to be 1.4 million, or let's say a million dead people in Gaza. According to Hamas, the number is 70,000. That includes everyone that's died from natural causes. So if someone died from pneumonia or old age, they're included in that 70,000.
But why are they dying to pneumonia?
Just allow me to finish. And that includes all the fighters that Hamas have killed, as Israel's killed. Israel puts that number at 30,000. That leaves 40,000 civilians that have unfortunately, tragically been killed, including those of natural causes. So let's then look at the level of devastation that you can see with your own eyes. We've all seen in neighborhoods just razed to the ground. If Israel wasn't warning and evacuating those civilians, there would be far more than 40,000, 50,000, whatever number you want to use, dead. And that's because Israel has evacuated those areas. It has drawn maps, created safe zones like Al-Mawasi, and moved people into neighborhoods where they're not actively engaging Hamas. And it's not in Israel's advantage to warn them to leave, because the minute you warn them to leave, you tell Hamas that you're coming. And so you're either going to warn them that Hamas are going to flee, or they're going to ambush you. And so it's a terrible military strategy. On top of that, we facilitated the movement of 2 billion kilograms of aid to an enemy population who were supplying with water, etc., during a time of war. An enemy population that hates us, that when our people were kidnapped and brought into Gaza, they spat on our corpses, beat our hostages. The civilians came into Israel and beheaded foreign workers, beheaded innocents. And so despite all of that, we still try to keep civilians alive. Now, I'm not saying the IDF is perfect. By no means. It's human. And humans are fallible. And I'm definitely not defending every single Israeli. You will undoubtedly have seen videos from the war that are indefensible. And because of that, Israel has got over 1,000 of its own soldiers under investigation today for potential wrongdoings in Gaza. Over 1,000 of its soldiers, because there is a code of conduct. So I defend the institution. I defend the IDF. I don't defend every single action and every single soldier.
Okay. Can I speak for a second?
Of
Are
course.
you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, he said a completely different point. He said, why are Israel bombing areas where they know the people who are told to be evacuated are evacuating too? Secondly,
Okay, sorry. I thought I had.
Now-
I can answer
now
that just
you
very
spoke-
quickly.
I'll ask a couple
okay.
of questions because I already have them.
Okay.
Secondly, there was the point you made about Palestinians or Hamas members spitting on corpses and so on. I mean, the IDF has done a lot of stuff as well. We've seen them going through wardrobes of women, Palestinian women, wearing their underwear, which is pretty weird. Like a grown-ass man in an army wearing undergarments of a woman is pretty weird, and I don't think it's very Jewish, you know?
I agree. You're not
No.
halakhically, you're not allowed to dress up in women's clothes. It's haram in Judaism.
No, not even about that.
No, I'm just saying it's not
even
Jewish.
if
I
it's
agree
not
with you. I agree
if
with
it
you.
wasn't about Islam, if it wasn't about Islam, even then.
No, I'm saying
Jewish-
Judaism.
in
I'm
a
saying Jewish
way,
law.
this
I'm
is
saying
very
Jewish law.
weird.
I'm saying Jewish law
No.
forbids it. You can't wear women's
Yeah,
underwear.
okay,
as a man.
perfect. So, thirdly, okay, we spoke about the point he made before. Then we spoke about how unethical the IDF is. There's also another point you made. What was it?
The point of aid. Food.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
aid thing. I mean, come on. We know what's really going on there. I mean, is the 2 billion or whatever you said
2 billion
number,
kilograms,
is it
yeah.
generally just funded by Israel?
No. So that's funded by the international community, and Israel facilitates.
Okay,
the
now
movement of it.
mostly probably Muslim countries that
A lot of
are
Muslim
donating.
countries.
Yeah.
The majority of the aid the Palestinians receive comes from the West, but there are notable exceptions. The UAE gives generously. Qatar gives
Okay.
a lot.
We'll
Yeah.
keep it moving. The first thing that happened after October 7th is you have this Israeli general going out there being like, no food, no water, no gas, no benzene, no everything. We're going to treat them like dogs. Is that
Yes.
really ethical?
So
I mean, if your top
I can't-
representative of an army is talking about treating humans like dogs, is that really?
he was talking about Hamas, but
It
what
is.
I would say,
If a representative is saying this, this is what the ethical code of the IDF is.
so it's very, very simple. It doesn't matter what any politician said. He was actually talking about Hamas. It doesn't matter what a politician says. It matters about the actions of the military. So in Israel, how it's structured is you have the military, you have a war cabinet, and a politician can say whatever they want. But the actions speak
But
louder
that
than words. So,
politician is
2 minutes.
part
2
of
minutes.
the
Always
IDF.
good. The point is very simple to land. Actions speak louder than words. If Israel did block food and water from getting in, there would be 2 million dead Palestinians in Gaza. There isn't, because Israel has facilitated 2 billion kilograms of aid. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've been to the distribution centers in Gaza. I filmed it. You can go on my YouTube channel and watch videos.
We've seen a lot of
Yeah,
videos
yeah.
about those.
Yeah. And so my point is, Israel's made mistakes with aid. When they blocked aid, it was a bad strategy. I know why they did it, but it did cause genuine food scarcity. There hadn't been genuine food scarcity up until that point. And I was very relieved when they repealed that and allowed the aid to flow back in. But there's no shortage of food. There's no shortage of water. There's no shortage in Gaza. There's more than enough to sustain the population. The real question is, and it's a question that every Muslim should ask, is why were the Gazans forced into that situation? No, I'm not even talking about Hamas. I'm talking about when you look at Syria, when you look at Afghanistan, when you look at Yemen, when you look at Sudan, any other conflict, there are refugees that are able to leave. So I'm a parent. If war breaks out here and there's any risk to my family, I want my wife and my children to go to a safe place as soon as possible. As a human reaction, Sisi locked the border in Egypt and wouldn't let one Palestinian refugee out. Why?
Okay. Now, we'll go back now. This whole thing did not start in 7th of October, which you are pretty much...
Of course not. You were slaughtering us in 1920, 1921,
Now,
1834.
What was Gaza before the 7th of October?
Before the 7th of October.
What self-administration did they have about external affairs?
They had total administration. What they didn't have is air, and they didn't have control of the sea border. And Egypt is the southern border. Obviously, you're not going to have... But one of the crazy things is... Israel, 2 minutes. One of the crazy... Israel and Gaza have basically been at war since 48. Basically, be it with the Egyptians,
Even
be it with
prior.
Hamas.
Even prior.
Well, not prior to 48.
I'd say it started on 33.
What happened on 33?
1933.
Yeah.
The Great Migration.
The Great Migration from where to where?
Yes. Okay, let's not get into that. That's all.
No, I've never. I want to learn. I've never heard of the Great Migration.
True. Ah, you really think so? Really? Okay. It's about when it initially started, the whole plan of the Zionism.
What happened in 1933?
This is when initially Palestine was chosen as one of the actual subjects of. I mean, do you not know that Madagascar was one of the top choices of?
Yeah, I also know
the
that
Zionistic
Argentina
dream?
was proposed, and there was the
Yeah.
Uganda plan. I've never heard
Okay,
1933.
Okay, it's all right.
So, who was advocating something in 1933?
I mean, shit, y'all made the plan even prior to World War One, didn't you?
Well, that's before 1933. But you said something
Yeah.
about a Great Migration.
What am I supposed to explain?
I don't know.
Tom, just skip it.
No,
Go
I
on
don't
with
want
your
to
point.
skip it. You can't just drop a truth bomb in there and then retreat.
Just go on with
I've
your
explained
point.
it. No,
I'll
I've
get back to it.
explained
I'll get back to
everything.
it.
I've explained
I'll
everything.
get
Can you
back to
just
it. Go on with your
explain?
point.
You said it started in 1933 with the Great Migration. What's the Great Migration?
I might have been wrong with the what do you call it, the year, but when the European Jews were migrated over to back then, Palestine.
So what happened?
The
Explain what
English
happened.
mandate.
So
I mean,
what
properties
happened?
were purchased and so on. You do know of Jewish terrorism in that under British mandate.
So I've heard of Al Kaf al Aswad and groups like that.
Okay, now who's your first prime minister?
Man, I'm sure you know.
No.
You don't? Ben.
Okay.
That's a clue. Ben.
Now,
ben,
which
ben what?
part of group
Ben
was
what?
he of?
He was the Haganah.
Okay. Does that
well,
not associate him to any group?
No, so he was the Haganah. That was the group he was associated with.
Okay. Now, what was the international view on that?
That they were a Jewish defense force.
Defense force?
That's what Haganah literally means. Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay.
What do you think it was?
That's all right.
No, please educate me about Ben Gurion. I think you're getting your people mixed up. Maybe you meant Menachem
Maybe.
Begin?
Maybe. Let me
Maybe.
look this up real quick.
Yeah, I think you mean Menachem Begin in the Irgun, or maybe Lehi.
Okay, well, who was he?
This is the prime minister further down the line.
Okay, who was he exactly?
He was the prime minister of Israel. He was the Irgun.
Mm-hmm. And which group was he part of?
The Irgun. Sorry, I keep saying it.
Okay, and what was that group?
What was it considered?
So the biggest fighting militia within Israel Defense Force was the Haganah. They were about 30,000 fighters in 1948. The next biggest was the Irgun, and they were about 3,000. And they split in how they viewed the British. The Haganah worked with the British and cooperated. The Irgun were basically, when Britain locked the door and wouldn't let Jews flee the Holocaust, the Irgun started campaigning against the British.
Mm-hmm. And
So
what
the
did
British,
he do
the
afterwards?
British, the British considered the Irgun a terrorist organization, which is what you're trying to get to. And the Irgun obviously didn't consider themselves a terrorist organization. They considered them a national liberation movement. And he became prime minister further down the line. He wasn't the first, though.
Okay. Okay, you can go on with your point.
Oh,
You were
it was
saying
your
something.
point. It was your point. I interrupted.
Was
You
it?
asked me. Yes, yeah.
Ah, okay. What were we speaking about other than
I think
that?
you were educating me about the history of the Great Migration.
Yeah, definitely.
I was
So you
just.
bought
By the way, I
book
was just
of-
watching Ice Age with my young daughter, which is like Disney
Oh,
cartoon,
okay, that's
and they
really
had the
nice.
Great Migration in that as well. They were migrating to. So
Bombo. That's cool, brother. Definitely did not take inspiration from that.
no, you look a little old for that. You got more facial hair than my
Yeah.
daughter.
More facial hair? I got a mustache. Come on, no. I wish I got a beard like yours.
My beard's gone, unfortunately. My wife wanted it nice and clean. I used to have a big ginger beard. Looked like a Viking. Or King David. Dawood.
Okay.
That's okay, Tayyip. Let's move on to a next topic. What are your opinions on Hezbollah? What do you view them as? Do you think some of their actions were justified? Do you think none of them were justified? What is the general consensus that you have?
So first, that surprised me. I assume both of you were Sunni. Are you Sunni? Is that a one Shia, one Sunni?
I am.
You're Sunni?
Yeah,
And you're Shia?
I'm Shia. Yeah.
MashaAllah, look at this coexistence, bro. Like, we've solved it. 1,400 years of fighting and we got two blood brothers. Subhanallah. So my views on Hezbollah are pretty obvious. I consider them a treacherous organization that targets civilians, that has destroyed Lebanon, that have slaughtered innocents. What they did in Syria was terrible. They butchered many innocents. So not a fan
And
of.
that's the thing. Can you name like one instance or one event in which they did that in Syria? This is not a gotcha question. Just like what do you know of these terroristic incidences?
So there were many instances. I've watched video after video of Shia. Then it's both ways in Syria, like Daesh, Jabhat al-Nusra were doing exactly the same to Shia, to Alawite, but it's the history of Syria. It's just minority communities slaughtering each other. I think the distinction I see Hezbollah as an extension of Iran. I'm not a fan of Khomeini. I'm okay with Shirazi. I'm okay with certain streams within Shia Islam. Not a fan of Khomeini. I see him as expansionist. I see him as wanting.
You're probably good with Ismailis, right?
Look, bro, you've got your thing. I'm good with anyone who wants peace with me. Anyone who comes to me and extends peace, I'm
What about a
with.
person that searched for the two-state solution of back then?
For a two-state solution? I used to support two-state solution. I don't support two-state solution now. I don't think Palestinian nationalism is. But to come back to Hezbollah, not a fan of Hezbollah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but obviously you still have a lot to say, and I do want to hear what you have to say. But to interject, you called Khomeini an expansionist, which, being objective and not thinking from a Shia or an anti-Israel perspective, okay, that may be true. Okay, let's say he is an expansionist, but isn't the goal of Israel like ultimately just imperialism, expanding? I mean, you talk about Hezbollah as a terrorist organization, but the fact that Hezbollah were formed in 1982 due to the invasion of Israel into southern Lebanon, that's the main reason they were formed. They weren't formed out of nowhere. They weren't formed just by a spark of Iranian intelligence. We were invaded in 1982 by Israelis, and that's what led to the resistance group being formed, also known as Hezbollah, which you consider a terrorist group. And I mean, most of the attacks or wars, let's leave Syria aside, we'll get to that later on, but most of the attacks waged by Hezbollah on Israel were resistance attacks, like generally 1982, 2006,
it's not,
with the exception of 2024, which was a support war, but the majority of battles that we fought were in resistance to your imperialism, your invasion onto our lands. And as someone who supports a sovereign Israeli state, how can you not condemn the fact that you're stepping into lands that are not yours?
So it's very simple why we step in. It's the same reason that we're in there regularly. We will still hit targets within Lebanon at the minute, is because we face an existential threat. The biggest threat that Israel faced was Hezbollah. It's how Hamas were able to do what they did on October the 7th, because all of our energy, all of our resources were looking north. There were hundreds of thousands of rockets pointed at Israeli cities. Now, Israel isn't in Lebanon. Israel isn't occupying Lebanon.
Apologies, but like there are about 15 to 20 villages on the southernmost border of Lebanon that are currently occupied by Israel.
I'm talking pre-October 7th. I was talking pre-October 7th. Yeah, at the moment
pre-October 7th, there were a couple of villages also occupied by Israel. Like, I'm not trying to do any gotcha, but like genuinely, you guys
which Lebanese villages do you believe are occupied? Because I know as part we gave up. We were in Lebanon and we gave up that territory for peace. The same time we disengaged from Gaza. I'm not aware of us
You have to
having
forgive me.
any.
I don't know the
Lebanese.
exact names, and I'm not
Okay,
just
I'll take
spewing
your.
out.
I'll take your word. I'll take your word.
Yeah,
Let's say you're
but
right. I'm not aware of
most
that.
definitely, the ones that I know, I believe that you left were the ones south of the Litani River. I mean, that one I believe you guys forgave. I don't know what it's called. in
But
Hebrew.
the whole thing was basically up to the Litani is supposed to be free of Hezbollah, suppose, and that's why you had the UN in Lebanon and UNIFIL, and they
The
were
blue line and
supposed,
everything.
and they literally just observed Hezbollah building up huge arms caches. So Israel is not interested. You described Israel as expansionist. It's the opposite. The only area where I would say that I would concede, and I don't say it is expansionist, but I say where Israel has territorial aspirations that the Arab world objects to, is Judea and Samaria, the West Bank. Israel has no interest in Gaza. Israel has no interest in Lebanon. Israel has no interest in Jordan. Israel has no interest in Syria. It does
And
have
there we go.
interest
This on
in.
Syria, if possible, unless you have
So
a more
the
important-
goal, with the exception of Har Hermon, which is strategic, it was basically a blind spot for the military. We can't radar. So the exception of that one mountain in the Golan, Israel has no ambitions for Syria. Judea and Samaria,
But that's the thing, right?
Judea and Samaria,
Like-
the West Bank, I would say Israel does have intentions for, and I think
Do
I
you
agree
condone
with
those?
those intentions.
Do you condone
No, I
those
support. No, I support Israel establishing sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. I believe that the Arabs living here should have the exact same rights as the Jews that live here, but I don't believe that a Palestinian state and a Jewish state can coexist in this land. I used to. I don't think so anymore.
So
And
you
I
are
think-
not for the two-state solution.
No, I used to be. I'm not anymore.
Most
No,
of the time, obviously.
So you're not anymore.
no. But I
But
don't think most
you-
Palestinians are, which is why whenever you see a Palestinian and they've any organization, any charity, anything, and they've drawn Palestine, it's always Western British Mandatory Palestine from the river to the sea. It's never the West Bank and Gaza.
Yeah, I don't know his exact name, right? But there's this apologies. There's this like German, I want to say doctor or philosophist, maybe not German even, but his parents were survivors of the Holocaust, and post World War II, like his parents would talk about like what the Nazis used to do, and now Germans, regular Germans, but what the Nazis used to do and how they used to. I mean, I shouldn't like tell you anything about this. Torture them, enslave them, overwork them, etc. And they would tell him that even if they had nothing to do with it, I would not forgive Germans, and I do not like Germans for what.
It's Norman Finkelstein you're speaking about. I've debated him.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And he goes on with
supposed to,
something
he
like,
bailed.
would you blame them after a population has endured like so much suffering and scrutiny and just overall war crimes against them? Would you blame them to not be able to forgive the people who did that to them? And with Israel, it's a bit different because Israel is, let's say, it's not been disbanded like the Nazis, where Israel is still continuing in what it's doing. Like, and this, when I say Israel, I'm not speaking of like the regular everyday civilians like you, for example. I'm speaking of the IDF and the government that issues these orders to the IDF. It is still committing these, if not genocides, these little war crimes. And yes, every human is fallible and every human is not perfect. But to the extent that has been recorded and noted by Israel, that is a corrupt ministry and that is corrupt government in my eyes. And to be scrutinized against is like the least that would happen in that case.
So I disagree with your analysis, but I don't think we'll convince each other the opposite. I'm not going to convince you that Israel isn't doing those things, and you're not going to convince me that it is.
Here's the thing. No, here's the thing, okay? I do understand that it's not every member in the IDF that is doing that, okay? I can be objective about it and realize that some of them are genuinely fighting in their beliefs for the safety of their home. What I'm saying is when there have been numerous incidents and numerous recordings of them committing war crimes or heinous acts, that is no longer a few bad apples.
But
that is the force itself by its entirety.
The thing that's really depressing I didn't serve in Gaza, but I've got many, like hundreds of friends who have served. And what hurts them the most is they've lost friends, many friends, in the fighting because they've had to follow rules of engagement to protect civilians, which has left them vulnerable. More so than I think any military in any conflict, like the recorded conflict, they've had to take such compromises and they literally lose their friends. And then they're accused of genocide. Like, if we wanted to genocide the Palestinians in Gaza, we'd do it in an afternoon. We have enough arms and we won't be warning them to leave the buildings. We'd just drop a massive bomb on Jabalia and kill everybody. Kill everybody. Like our enemies would do that. They would, if they could drop a massive bomb on Tel Aviv and kill everybody, they would do that. But we don't do that. And my friends have lost countless friends in Gaza because they've had to put civilians before their own safety. And so I disagree with the genocide charge. If we wanted a genocide, we'd genocide. The fact that there's been 40,000 recorded deaths, civilians, including natural causes, in 2 years of fighting, in 1 year of fighting in Syria, 140,000 dead in 2014. In 2 years of fighting in Ethiopia, 800,000 dead. That's genocide. If you want to talk genocide, you want 40,000 in 2 years in the most densely populated area. It's not genocide, bro.
That seems like a redundant opinion to have on it, honestly. For me, at least, what I would classify as genocide is, and this is not me being some all-knowing, innocent, ruler,
Yeah.
but in my humble opinion, it's anything that surpasses, let's say 1,000, right? Because you have a murder, mass murder, massacre, and then you move on.
There's a definition of genocide.
Regardless of the time that it took, it is still a genocide.
There's a definition for genocide that was codified in 1948 in the Genocide Convention, and that is the intentional destruction of a people in part or whole. So it's when you're trying to destroy, you have the intent to destroy a people. And now you don't have to destroy all of them, but the intent is to destroy them in part or whole. And so when tens of thousands of people are killed in a war, that's most wars. Most wars in this region, the death toll hits hundreds of thousands, not tens of thousands. And Israel is clearly not intending to destroy the population, because if they were, they wouldn't warn them to leave. They wouldn't create safer zones. And you're right, there have been instances where people have been hit fleeing from one area to another. That's inevitably when Hamas have been firing from those convoys and Israel struck back. And they've also struck safer areas. Al-Mawasi's been hit. And so there's nowhere that's safe in Gaza. There's just safer areas. And war's horrible. I'm not going to pretend Al-Mawasi's some beautiful 5-star resort. They're living in tents. They're struggling to get electricity, clean water. It's hell on earth. It's hell on earth.
Here's the next point that I want to follow up.
Okay.
You've told me this. I can come out and say that is true. Israel, the IDF has been more selective than other ministries or governments have. But in doing so, as you said it yourself, you've ruined the infrastructure, destabilized any sort of economy, ruined any kind of electricity or power lines, and obviously the major one, food, right? So infrastructure is gone, and food, relatively, I know you believe you still got a lot of food in them, but relatively heavily impeded, any kind of flow of food. And to go back to an earlier point that you made, because I just need to be clear with you on it. I am not you, right? And I don't know you that well, so I don't know if what you're saying about what happened to your friends is true, and if in actually trying to be more humane, they have lost their lives. If so, I am genuinely sorry to hear that. But I will have to say, from a debating point of view, right? This is anecdotal.
Absolutely.
You've just said it to me. I don't have any 100%. Videos of that happening to the IDF members. I don't have any websites listing events like these. I cannot take your word on it purely on hearing you say it.
I mean, you absolutely don't have to. I think the easiest way to measure it, though, is we wouldn't have troops on the ground. We just bomb from the sky. Particularly now that we have our hostages back. Now that there's no reason for us not just to rain fire from the sky. The very fact there are soldiers on the ground, they're there for a reason. And we don't just want to kill people. If we wanted to just kill civilians, we'd kill civilians. And as I said, I'm not going to defend every single day. I don't want to defend every day. I hate war. Okay. I hate death. So I think the key thing is, if you look at the destruction, I think it's the hardest thing for me to have got my head around is looking at the level of destruction of buildings. And having studied the war, I don't see any other alternative to that. I would rather see those buildings destroyed, the tunnels destroyed. Like there's tens of thousands of tunnel shafts in those buildings. There's booby trap buildings that you haven't got time to send bomb squads into in the middle of a war. So I would rather see those buildings destroyed without people in them than people destroyed. And I think it's because of the type of battle that Hamas chose. They built this infrastructure. They turned Gaza into a military fortress and forced Israel to fight on these terms. My question would be...
Are you talking about the Hannibal Directive?
Pardon? No, that nothing to do with Hannibal. Israel's never agreed that there's the Hannibal Directive. No, I'm talking about the destruction of... So just in case it's not clear, Hamas built a huge network of tunnels under Gaza, under hospitals, under schools, under houses, tunnel shafts popping up everywhere, and the fighters would use these to pop up and attack IDF positions.
I think I've got your point. If I can interject here and
please
rebuttal those 2 points. Okay, so firstly, you said that you don't see any alternative to this. You see this as the penultimate act in which the IDF can enforce. What I want to ask you, right, us being part of the Abrahamic religions and sharing these same rules and commandments to follow, we are taught that human life is sacred, right?
100%.
Albeit aside from what people claiming to be part of our separate religions do, we know that human life is sacred. To you, as a staunch Zionist, or more likely as a genuine religious Jew, how much is a human life worth to you? So how many civilians, those being women, old men, and babies, are you willing to go through so that you can get to one Hamas member? And before you continue to get to the second point, you said that the way the Hamas has set up itself around Gaza's infrastructure caused it to be like this. And to a certain extent, you are true. I'm not saying that I agree with what the IDF has done, but I'm saying that being in Gaza, being in such a condensed and tight-knit, the only tactics that you would have are guerrilla tactics. So what do you expect, putting aside that they may be terrorists, everything. So how would you expect a war to be waged where you don't have any other option but for it to be guerrilla warfare?
Okay,
like you said it yourself. They set themselves up around this tight-knit infrastructure, but that's the only way they can go on about it. If you got fire raining down from the sky, if you've got excessive military firepower on the ground, and all of these, that are to your advantage and to your favor, how do you expect them to fight without guerrilla warfare? And this is not considering them terrorists. This is just a war being waged between two parties. So those two questions.
I'm going to start with an anecdote from one of the most inspirational people I've ever met. He's a Palestinian. And 17 years old, this Palestinian threw a grenade at the IDF, and he was jailed for terrorism. Nobody died, but you can't throw grenades at the IDF without going to jail here. I know, we lost them. Oh, you're back, thank God. I just lost you. Yeah. And so he threw a grenade at the IDF, went to jail, and while he was in jail, he said, I'm going to research the big lie. I want to know about my enemy. And for him, the big lie was the Holocaust. He was taught as a kid the Holocaust never happened. It was a story the Jews made up to steal Palestine. And he started to read about the Jews and realized that we'd been to hell. And so he started studying the Holocaust, and then when he was released from prison, he did his thesis in a British university on the Holocaust. He came back to Jerusalem, where he lived, East Jerusalem, started a family. He's Muslim, and had a young girl, and an IDF soldier shot his girl in the back and killed her dead. The state compensated him, not that any monetary amount can ever compensate for the loss of a child, but it was to show that there was no justification, there were no excuses. His daughter was killed and she should not have been killed. If that was me, that would have turned me into a monster. I would have signed up to Hamas, I would have joined the Mujahideen, I would have been gone. He devoted his life to peace, and I remember we were both stood looking at Har Bayt, Masjid al-Aqsa, and he said to me, Yusuf, human life is worth more than rocks and soil, is worth more than earth. Peace is going to come to our people, inshallah, and you can either be part of the solution, bringing peace, or you can be a barrier to it. But we won't kill each other forever. And human life is more important. And I absolutely agree. A human life is more important than any of this land. And so when I say that I support the IDF, I don't support war. I see the current war, the removal, the neutralization of Hamas, as the best way to prevent my children and their children being locked into a cycle of violence. I'm surrounded by Arabs where I live. I want them to have the same opportunities that I have. I want their children to play with my children. I don't want war. I don't want them to be my enemy. And I do believe that we can bring peace. But I think as long as groups like Hamas, which answers both of your questions, exist, I don't think we can have peace. Hamas's objective wasn't to fight Israel. Hamas's objective has always been to liberate all of the land. And so they raised, half of the population in Gaza is under 18. And that entire generation has been raised on the belief that they will return. They are refugees in Gaza, and they will return and they will liberate Quds. They'll liberate Jaffa. They'll liberate Haifa. They'll liberate all of the land. And that's the issue. I don't believe that Hamas's objective was Gaza. It is not Gaza. It's the entirety of the land. They've said this repeatedly. It's in their charter. It's every time they speak to the media. And so I can't really answer your question, how would I expect them to fight other than using guerrilla forces? Because I don't believe in their cause. And this is actually the reason I moved away from believing in a two-state solution, is because I don't think Zionism and Palestinian nationalism can coexist. I don't think both of those national movements can coexist in this land. I think one has to be dominant. And I would rather it would be the Zionist over the Palestinian, because under Zionism, there's 2 million Arabs that have complete equality with Jews. Under the Palestinian Authority, the moderates, there's not one Jew, and Jews are barred from citizenship by their law. So I think under Zionism, both our people can thrive and have equality. Under Palestinianism, I think one of our people will be genocided, and really genocided.
Okay, so you started with this anecdote of this person that, like, you know, inspired you, or at least gave you some words that meant a lot to you, right? And paraphrasing, because I cannot remember the exact thing he told you, but he said, no human life is worth, you know, like
every human life is worth. Yeah, every human life is worth more than rocks and soil. We should trade land for peace if it brings peace.
Mhm.
The question is, would it bring peace?
And that's the thing that, like, hearing you say that, then move on into this point that you just spoken about, that's like something I find contradicting in a way, because you mentioned that and you truly believe that, right? Like, that sentiment you carry in your heart. But the fact is, okay, at the end of the day, Palestinianism, as you would like to term it, and Zionism, like, regardless of whether the Palestinians have the right to take back their land or whatnot, both of these movements, at the end, they are imperialistic, right? So they are going to impose on one or the other. So regardless of whether Zionism takes control or Palestinianism takes control, that's not going to stop anything.
What do you mean? Maybe we use different terms. Let me just a clarifying point. What do you mean by imperialist? What do you mean by imperialist?
By taking back the land, I mean, by conquering this land, or like establishing total control of either party. Now, I don't think having either of these systems set up is going to achieve that, right? Because Zionism is obviously logically going to fight for the advantage and the benefit of its people, while Palestinianism, if it were to be the one that took over, is going to fight for the contrary, for the, you know, control and liberty of its people. So you say that you truly believe that peace is the penultimate solution, but at the same time, you would rather have a system that is going to benefit the Jews and the Israelis more than it's going to benefit the Arabs. If it's true peace that you're looking for, no matter how hard it seems or unrealistic, a two-state solution is the place to go, right? Like, I'm not like those others. Neither me or him are like those other Muslims that believe, oh, kick the Israelis out or kick the Jews out. We know that's not realistic. We know people inhabit this land now, and it's been their home for the like past 3 generations, 4 generations, so to speak. We know it's not realistic, but at the same time, it does not seem fair that you have one regime that tailors to a specific religion or nationality or people over the other.
I think, truthfully, I think it's a fair pushback. What I would say in response is, I think you're right. I think if Zionism, Israel reestablishes sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, and it says this is now, the West Bank is now Israel, I think it would be fair to say that it would favor the national rights of the Jews over the Arabs. It doesn't mean it would discriminate, but the day of rest would be Saturday, not Friday. The major language, the secondary language as it is today, would be Arabic, but the primary language would be Hebrew. But every sign would be in Hebrew and Arabic as it is today. But Hebrew will be the dominant, and so I think Hebrew would the calendar that you use would be the Hebrew calendar. So I agree that there would be a preference to Jews, and I'd imagine if I was to be really critical of my own ideology, that the right of return would be open to Jews still, but I can't imagine that would be extended to the refugees who fled in 48. And so and it's as somebody who tries to be consistent and moral, it's a fair challenge. My pushback would be, this would be the one Jewish country in the world. We're surrounded by dozens of Muslim countries, dozens of Christian countries. This would be the one Jewish one. I wouldn't support any apartheid rule. I would expect every Arab to have the exact same rights as every Jew that was living here. But you're right, at a national level, it would be a Jewish state rather than a Muslim state. But then there are dozens of other Muslim states, and I think the world can tolerate one Jewish state, provided it doesn't discriminate and oppress the citizens that live within it, be they Arab, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Druze, whatever. I think there should be complete equality. So I think it's a fair pushback, but I also think it's reasonable from a Jewish perspective for us to have one country, which is tiny. You can literally walk across Israel at the moment from the Mediterranean to the Green Line. Even if it was to re-establish to the Jordan River, it's a tiny country.
But like, okay, here's the thing in which like I tend to disagree on, and this isn't fully polished, right? I cannot like bring this as a solid idea, but I truly believe Jews have been persecuted. Jews have been, mistreated historically and universally. But I still do think, right, even with, let's say, a mainly leading Jewish government, I do feel that any amount of inequality, and I'm not saying it's easy. It is ridiculously hard. It is so aspirational and like passionate. It's not something that any country has achieved. I mean, even land of the free, and the blacks get discriminated against. Even the Jews in America get discriminated against. No country has achieved this. But I do fear that any sense or any amount of inequality, no matter how tiny it will be, it will eventually lead to discrimination, right? So let's take right now. I'm not fully educated, but like let's take fully Israeli or fully Jewish settlements or areas in Palestine. If a student wants to apply to med school, if a student wants a government position, the fact that he is Arab or Christian or at the end of the day not Israeli, not like ethnically Israeli, he's considered a second choice, and that's still something that goes on. So regardless,
Jewish. So I'm not sure. Just to interject, I'm not sure that's true. Well, and it's not. I'm not sure. I know it's not true. You have Arab judges that have sent Jewish president and the Jewish prime minister to jail. Two separate people. Two separate judges, Arabs, have sent the Jewish leaders of the state to jail. Arab Christians outperform every religious group in education. Like. The Arabs aren't second-class citizens here. Arabs have complete equality. The issue of contention is in Judea and Samaria, which is currently under, depending where you are, military control, and so there's different sets of rules there for Palestinians and Israelis, and so I think that's just because of the current setup following years of war. But in terms of Israel and Arab citizens of Israel and Jewish citizens of Israel, they have the exact same rights. There are certain things that Arabs don't have to do, like an Arab doesn't have to serve in the military because it would be unfair to force a Muslim to go to war with his family if he didn't want to go to war in Gaza. Like, they're the same people. And so there are certain laws where there's differences, but as a general rule, you cannot discriminate in this country against Arabs. It's actually illegal.
Yeah. The following evidence that I have is purely anecdotal, right?
Yeah.
So, but we've been on Israel on TV for quite some time, like the past 2 days, you could say.
Yeah.
And we've met some Arabs from the Qudus. I think we've met two people, both of which happen to be medical students.
Yeah.
And we've spoken, I'd say, to the extent of 30 minutes with both people.
Yeah.
And these 30 minutes, they were just them telling us about like the discrimination they face, telling us how it's harder for them to get into specialties. Quds, yes.
Yeah, so so Jerusalem's a unique situation whereby the Arabs were offered citizenships and the overwhelming majority of them refused it and took residency instead. So they're not technically citizens. So there will be difference. So even driving into certain areas can be problematic. It's not as if you were to go just outside of Jerusalem, Abu Ghosh, there's no distinction, there's no differentiation. It's just an Israeli town. It just happens to be an Arab town, a Muslim town. But Jerusalem is unique, so I'm not going to say that they didn't face.
Can I say something? We also study with a lot of Arab 48s that have been, leave Israel to come out here and study.
Yeah.
Even they tell us that there is certain discrimination in certain fields. Some of them even tell us that they went out of the country to escape such discrimination.
Look, Arab identity here is very complex and very personal, and so you can go to places like al-Fahim where they're Palestinian. You'll see the Palestinian flags. They don't see themselves as Israeli. And
I know even in certain Jewish sects, you will find that as well.
Yeah. So if you go to Meir Sha'arim, you're right, ultra-Orthodox Neturei Karta will do some things that are beyond the pale. But my point was, you will definitely meet Arabs who are highly politicized, very Palestinian identity, and they will focus and they will see everything that's wrong. You'll see other Arabs who are integrated and see themselves as Israeli and believe it's the only place in the Middle East where you don't have corruption and they're doing economically well, and for whatever reasons they're super pro-Israel. It just really does depend. So I 100% believe that you've had those experiences, because I meet Arabs from here who say the same thing, but I don't think it's
Arab
true.
Druze and Arab Christians have it better than Arab Muslims? Because you obviously thinking like Christians and Druze
not
have
better.
more.
I think they have at the state level they have the same laws. I think they may be seen by Israeli citizens, Jewish citizens, differently. So I think, for instance, there's a huge love for the Druze, because the Druze are one of the most loyal subjects in Israel. They're super loyal. They're like, we see ourselves as brothers. Christians have mixed. It depends on the there's some Christian communities are super pro-Israel. Other Christian communities can be on the fence, and others can be hostile. So it just depends. So like a Christian
usually with Muslim Arabs, do you think they're anti or pro-Israel?
I think it's changing. It used to be, I think the majority were anti, and I think that's changing rapidly, and many Muslim Arabs are taking on citizenship. And I also think there's a difference between the politics and the personal. Like every single day I'm interacting with Muslim Israelis, and we get on fine. You wouldn't imagine there's a war just a few miles south of us involving our families killing each other. Because here we go. I remember, like, it's just human. Like, I've had hijabi women pick up my daughter and push her on the swing, and my daughter's like, doesn't see it any different. No. Like just at the playground, and then just interacting. On a swing. No. A hijabi woman being super nice to my daughter, and my daughter just like, here's a nice, lovely woman. On the personal, on the human level, we coexist here fine. But then there's the politics. And so I genuinely think you can have, and you did have Sinai. There was a few years back, there was a situation in Lud where Jews and Arabs who'd got on perfectly, neighbors and best friends. Then there was a riot, and all of a sudden these neighbors are telling who's a Jew, who's not a Jew, and they're really clashing. So I think politics is always beneath the surface, but on a human level, I can't judge what someone's politics are based on my personal interactions. And so you definitely get racism in Israel, cutting both ways, Arabs to Jews, Jews to Arabs. I think your read is accurate. I think as a general rule, Israelis see the Druze as very loyal. The Christians can be very loyal. And Muslims can be very loyal, but in much smaller numbers. And so on a human level, I think what you're describing is accurate, but not at the state level. I think legally, the law's the same for all of us.
Okay.
If you have citizenship.
If you don't,
then it's not the same. It's like a resident doesn't have the same rights as a citizen. They don't vote in the elections.
I know. But where are you going to? I'm really sorry, but where are you gonna send them off to?
I'm not going to send
Because
off
in
anywhere.
Germany, if an immigrant does something, he's being sent back.
But this is the thing. They're not immigrants. I mean, maybe
Yeah,
they're
okay.
great,
So
great, 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 great,
if
great
they do end
grandfathers.
up doing the ouch,
Well, we
where
send
do you
them
send them off to?
to jail.
To
but-
Gaza.
we got good prisons here, bro. We got some fierce prisons. But no, I believe that I'm not one of these Zionists that says kick all the Arabs out. I'm not. I believe that the Arabs came later. I believe that.
So you do
that-
believe in coexistence, but not in a 50-50 state solution.
yeah, not a two-state solution. I believe in
So you
a one-state
believe
solution.
that Arabs
or-
can coexist with Israelis under Israeli law.
yeah, and I don't believe that Jews can exist under Palestinians. I don't. But I believe we need a state because we have one, and it hasn't been great for us living under other people.
I mean, I'm not complaining. I mean,
Yeah.
shit. Okay, you guys have been through a lot, like multiple Holocausts,
Said the
multiple,
same thing to him like 5
like
minutes
genuinely, bro. You guys have been. I'm really sorry, but fucked
no,
over
no,
and over.
and this is
In
one of the
either
reasons.
back then Al Andalus or in Europe and so
Yeah.
on and so forth. Even in my opinion, historically viewing it, Muslims have been way better towards Jews than Christians have.
I
It's
agree.
only in the past couple of hundred of years that the Christians have taken the Jews in as allies other than enemies.
How I would view it is like you know you're gonna like spouse abuse. You're gonna have a husband who picks up his wife and throws her down the stairs and beats her with a frying pan. That's the Christians. And then you have a husband who occasionally gives his wife a slap. That's the Muslims. That's kind of to make a very crude analogy.
Islam, they agree to slapping your
But
wife.
not with a miswak. Not with a miswak. And so my thing is like, as a general rule, Jews did do better under most of the Khulafa. There were some Khulafa that were horrendous to the Jews, but they were also horrendous to the Muslims.
But
And
can I
so-
say one thing? I
Yes.
do believe that up until now, viewing Israeli history, I do believe that some khulafa were
Yeah.
better at it than the entirety of the Israeli history.
Really, I disagree, but I don't
You
want to get
probably-
like we've been going for that's another 2-hour debate.
I mean, this is the religious bias
Yeah.
that we will have in the end.
Yeah,
You're
what I
wearing
would-
the kippah, I'm not.
Yeah.
You know,
But what I think, speaking to the two of you, although we started a bit wild, I can see that you both peaceful,
it
well
started
read
a
on the
bit wild
history.
because I've
Yeah.
seen your TikToks. I just found it
But
very funny.
that's going to make,
Here.
and truthfully, that's going to make the video better because there's a huge clash, and I'll do the little intro with a huge clash, and then us getting along at the end, and people want to say what happened, how did they go from this to this? But what I was
Genuinely
I guess
mention this in your video. I beg you, like it's honestly like a good message of you seeing like in the beginning it was like this, and then in the end it was like an alright conversation.
what I do. This whole video is going on YouTube. I'll upload the whole thing. I'll probably do a couple of clips to drive people to the longer video.
Hide your face, hide your face.
But the long video is the important video because it shows that despite huge political differences, historical differences, we can talk. I'm speaking to two brothers who are actually very well read on the subject. Oh, certainly more so than the average person I engage with. And you recognize the trauma that the Jewish people have faced. You recognize the trauma that's going on today in this
Well,
land.
we look.
And-
The thing is, Arabs are sadly a bit behind. I will admit this. A lot of Arabs are what we call nowadays juhala. Now,
So I'm not gonna
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say that. That's but yeah.
it's all right. It's my people. A lot of people do not like. They grew up with a certain mindset, and they will do so as well. Same as Israelis.
Yeah.
You will find, like, you know how they bully around West Bank people and so on. You will find those people. For you, it's accepted. For us, it might be accepted.
Yeah.
We have been, look, my parents, like my father, if you go back just one generation, our neighbors in Turkey used to be Jewish, and above us, they used to be Maronite Christians. Or like Armenian, basically. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what you would call them.
Marinate said
And
Catholic,
we've always heard two sides of the stories. And my parents, at least, I don't know about yours, I'm going to be honest, have basically given us this free will of building our own opinion.
Yeah.
I will say we have been brought back a couple of centuries afterwards, after like the World War One. We have been very behind, but our generation, especially, I will say, we have built opinions on it. We have read about it. Not a lot of us, but I will say at least 20% of the people. And with future generations, it will keep on going. What I will say, hopefully, we do find some sort of agreement to this whole issue. Because us Muslims would not like to see our other Muslims be, like, bombed, if justly or unjustly.
Completely agree, and I think we're in agreement. That's the best place to end it. Is we will see the war different, but ultimately, we both want peace, and none of us know what that peace will look like. But ultimately, it means my children have the same opportunities as their Arab neighbors' children. That's ultimately what it comes down. We should be able to coexist in equality, inshallah.
MLK once said, "I have a dream."
Yeah.
Um,
So there we go. We have a dream. Plagiarized there, Martin Luther. All right, Jazakallah khair, guys. I've enjoyed the conversation. It's been
just
fun.
like one thing I know we are concluding. I don't want to take too much of your time, right?
Yeah.
But there's just one thing I want to talk about
Okay.
in order to be clear on everything we discussed.
Yeah.
The past points that we've talked about have been, for the most part, objective, right? And I have
Yeah.
not mentioned anything sentimental. The following, honestly, I don't think there's any way I could objectively speak of it. So when we were speaking about the stuff that we've seen in Gaza, or the stuff that
Yeah.
we've seen from the side of Hamas, these were stuff that were
Just say it normally.
Oh, yeah. I didn't mean to retain, but it's just you get used to it. The kha rolls off way smoother than the ha. But after the stuff that we've seen from Hamas and from the IDF committing wrongdoings,
It's
There is-
that Zionist propaganda.
Just-
right there.
After all this video, every Muslim's going to be in the comments now that you're a Mossad plant.
but
Guys,
No, sorry,
أشهد أن لا
continue.
إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله.
La ilaha illallah Musa Rasulullah. Man, just put my
I mean, that is correct.
yeah,
I agree.
but
But sorry, you were
so-
saying.
yes. So as you know, I'm a Shia Lebanese, so
Yeah.
that means that during genuinely
Yeah, genuinely, bro.
So during the war, when it first started, in September 17, I'd say is when it genuinely started. I was in Lebanon. I witnessed the pager attack. I witnessed the initial bombings and everything, right? So this wasn't stuff that was fed to me through any political lens. This was stuff that I've seen, and I've seen genuine hospital staff workers with their limbs missing after the pager, or their eyes missing after the pager attacks. I remember there are neighbors that I used to walk to, that I used to to greet upon the street. Last I heard of them is that they were bombed. And no affiliation to Hezbollah. I will be clear. Definitely in my village, we had members of Hezbollah. I will not deny that.
Yeah.
But the overarching majority was genuine innocent civilians that were bombed. I remember there's one story, which is literally 5 minutes walking away from my house. So you can imagine hearing the first missile that the IDF dropped. No one, they were doubting a Hezbollah member was there, and he resided in that general area, but he had evacuated 4 days before anything had happened. They bombed that area, and it's my one of my close friends' dad, and other neighbors surrounding him. And then as the paramedic team arrived, that's when they dropped the second bomb, which was way louder and way the shockwave was way bigger. I remember one of the wooden doors moving and swaying because of how much it was. When they had reached there after the paramedics, and when they had bombed the paramedics, the people who arrived after them, by 20 minutes or so, they said that they couldn't recognize the bodies, because at that point they had turned to a deformed mass of char and bones and rotting flesh.
Allah.
And that's just one anecdote that I've seen and that I've gone through while being in the South before I had the chance to evacuate. And even though I've been very objective with you and I've been very honest about stuff like this, man, your IDF, or let's say your government, have destroyed countless houses in my village. They have killed many people that it's so surreal, right? Many people that would walk with and speak to are now gone, and they died not in any beautiful sense. They became deformed masses, I'd say.
Yeah.
It is beyond hard or reasonable for me to be able to forgive your government, right?
So,
And I still try to be objective. I still try to be analytical and recognize that it is war. But when it's people that genuinely, Yusuf is your name, correct?
yeah.
That Yusuf, they genuinely would not hurt a fly. They genuinely did not want any part of the conflict. When you hear of their deaths and you see the photos of their charred corpses, it's it's very hard to be analytical. It's very hard to be objective. And even to this day, you guys had your sonic booms that you would deliver to us every Wednesday and Thursday. You guys had us on a routine, and the bombings that I stayed for the bigger part of. To this day, loud noises or bangs, like that shit still gets to me. Not because I was afraid of not because like I was afraid of dying, but because it was the fact that like someone I knew or someone I could have spoken to and had a meaningful conversation is now nothing but rotting flesh and dust. And to this day, I still find it very hard to be able to speak of it and to come to terms with it, because at this point, it is corruption on both sides. It is corruption on Hezbollah's side to a certain extent. It is definitely corruption on the IDF to a certain extent, and I think that is the overarching problem. And within all this conflict, both sides have seen some stuff that are traumatic that they cannot process or genuinely forgive, regardless of our testaments, regardless of our commandments. At least for me, I don't know what you've witnessed, but I know I was pushed to my very, 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 very limit. And there's still some stuff that I got to process from that era of my life. So I'd say that's like the main reason why it's hard to find true resolution or true solution, because we've been thrown into this. I know you've served in the IDF, but I'll speak of regular civilians. We've been thrown into this, and the shit that we witness, it's not something that can resolve. I fear until we pass, and until a generation grows up that has not been exposed to what we've been exposed to.
So the first thing I'm going to say is I've got nothing but respect for you. I debate a lot of people, and most people I debate have no skin in the game. You're somebody who's lived through bombings and lost friends, and yet you approach this conversation in probably one of the most open and respectful ways that I've experienced on here and doing this. And you're someone who's not observing, you're living this. And so I have nothing but respect for you. That's the first thing I want to say. So any point of disagreement or anything I say which feels like a challenge isn't challenging you as a person. I've got genuinely nothing but respect for you, for the way you've conducted yourself throughout of this. I would never have imagined that you were actually part of this conflict from the way that you've addressed me. So in Hebrew we say kol hakavod, which is just nothing but respect. So the first thing I'd start with the pages. The pages were probably the most targeted strike, or certainly one of the most targeted strikes in military history. And because nobody uses pages today, the only reason anybody had one of those pages is because Hezbollah wanted them to receive. So anyone who's been hit is connected in quite a serious way with Hezbollah. They were meant to be for the fighters. Maybe there were other people that had them. Maybe there was someone in close proximity to someone who had a pager, but ultimately that was targeted. So I see that very different to the strikes on your village. The strike on a village is different. And we won't say eye to eye on this. The fact that you were very honest and said that there was Hezbollah, there was an individual who was Hezbollah, but he'd left. This is a war between Israel and Hezbollah. It's not a war between Israel and Lebanon, but particularly in southern Syria, southern Lebanon, which is where where it sounds like your village is. Mm-hmm. That's where Hezbollah have their strongholds, and there will definitely be mistakes. And so again, like I said, I'm not going to defend every action in Gaza. I'm not going to defend every action in Lebanon.
I will lead into this point, right? And this is like a very, very nuanced point, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from, because it's not going to be easy. But I grew up, majority of my life, I'd say, in Lebanon. And as you've been fed stuff from the IDF and from the Israeli government. I have been fed from Hezbollah and whatnot. And we both realize there are truths and there are lies. But for me right now as a person, and you have to understand it's very nuanced, but I take no shame in it. I am, to an extent, in support of what Hezbollah has done. But because I say this because for the most part, right, when the IDF has advanced into Lebanon, when they were actually trying to invade Lebanon to a certain extent, and I understand their ideology, why. I can tell you I understand it. But when we were at the threat of war, we had none but the resistance group. I don't know if you know a lot about the sectarianism that goes on in Lebanon or the political scheme that Lebanon is in, but the South is desolate. You know, we do have military strongholds there, but they are pretty much like a little, I'd say, useless to a certain extent, right? During the bombings, during the terrestrial attack of Israel, when you guys tried to advance during the 24 war, the military did nothing, right? It was members of the resistance group or the terrorist group, in your eyes, that were fighting against it. The only difference that I say I differ from the regular southerner in Lebanon is that I recognize there is no such thing as a fully innocent or fully clean organization. I recognize that in the IDF, I recognize it in Hezbollah, but it's like two sides of the same coin. As you believe the IDF has the right to enforce itself and defend itself, but also is fallible and has committed atrocities, I believe the same of Hezbollah. I do believe Hezbollah has the right to enforce themselves, right? And to a certain extent are fallible and have committed atrocities, such as the ones that were observed in Syria. So I would like to say that, like, maybe it's something that we can hash out or like understand better, but I genuinely do believe it's just two parallels, you know? But the fact that we've been able to have a productive conversation, and if anything, a relatively objective and thorough one, says more about our characters than who we support.
Yeah. And not 100%. And one thing I would never do is undermine lived experience. I speak to enough Arabs, I speak from here, to know that you're not walking in someone else's shoes. And I've lived through bombings, not to the same extent you have, but I've been in. Thank God we have bomb shelters. Most of southern Lebanon doesn't have a bomb shelter. So when Iran's firing its missiles and you're feeling the entire shake, the entire foundations of the building shake, I'm in a bomb shelter. Unless there's a direct hit on my bomb shelter, I know I'm walking out of that. That's not the case for someone's in a village in Lebanon. They don't have that. Hezbollah don't build bomb shelters for civilians. They build vast networks under mountains, but they're not for civilians. It's the same with Hamas.
But I will say, Hezbollah has reimbursed a lot of the destruction that Israel has caused in the south. I mean, like, obviously, when Israel does bomb anything in the south, it's not the Lebanese government that will reimburse you or give you some sort of, in a funny way, security. It will be Hezbollah.
So I don't know this. Is this what happens? So let's say you're in a village and your house gets destroyed. Hezbollah will help with the rebuilding.
Hezbollah members will come over to your property, so be it house, apartment, land, whichever it may be. They will come assess the damages, and in about, let's say, I don't know how long their bureaucracy take, but they will assess the damage, and in most cases, and yet again, this is genuine, like, actual stuff. Yeah. I've not been reimbursed by them. They've not helped me rebuild my house or anything. But they will like over reimburse you. Like, there have been people who have lost like vegetable stands, and they've been reimbursed enough to build like a small house, so to speak. So yeah, they do carry out reimbursement. They send their representatives, and majority of the damage that has occurred is 90% of the times reimbursed or over reimbursed in 90% of cases.
Can I just add one thing before he does that? It's a very funny concept. Whatever Israelis usually view as evil for you guys, a lot of civilians in those certain areas which have been bombed by Israel will view as heroes. And this is not a surprise. I mean, it works vice versa. You guys view IDF as a, defensive army. Well, a lot
When
of
one of our boys dies, thousands will attend the funeral. You'll find the stickers, posters everywhere for those that have fallen
exactly.
defending
It's
the
the
And
same for
and
us.
and
It's like this
yeah.
protective system that we've built because a lot of
Yeah, and quite literally, I mean, like the concept that you've been speaking of, it's the same thing in my village, especially. Like so, upon the entrance to the village, what you'll see is banners of martyrs on my side, for example, that have
Yeah.
been killed by the IDF. And once someone is martyred, be if it was in Syria or if it was on the on the Israeli-Lebanese border, same thing. The funeral will be attended by almost every civilian in the village, even people that didn't particularly know the person, they will attend his funeral.
Yeah.
So yeah, the same affairs do exist to a certain
So I
extent.
know
That it goes
I know this because every time when we were going at it, every time there was a reported casualty, I'd be pulling the Shahada posters to show that the strike who was, because I did a lot of it's called open source intelligence research. So if there was a claim that a church had been struck, I would say which building had actually been struck. It was a hall behind it. Who was there? Okay, so there was someone from Amal, there was someone from Hezbollah, and I do that by going to the posters you're describing because they post them on Telegram. I'm giving away all my trade secrets here. Not that they'll stop posting because of me.
a true journalist does not give away his sources.
But my sources are Hezbollah, so I'm going to give them away. Guys, Hezbollah's my source. But no, I think there is common, and I think there's more commonalities between our people than either of us would like to admit. I think ultimately, though, for me, and it comes down to just we see it differently. You see Israel as, to use your language, I chose the different words, but you see it as imperialist or expansionist, and I don't think that. I think Israel's only intention in Lebanon is to stop Hezbollah because it believes Hezbollah is an existential threat, and Hezbollah via Iran. I mean, there's a reason Iranian call their foreign fighting force the Quds Force. It's like it's in the name. They're going to march on Jerusalem and take it, and as long as we're living in this fear, I think conflict is inevitable. Unless Hezbollah do a complete U-turn, cut the strings from Iran, say, look, we're not focused on that anymore. We just want to build up infrastructure. I can't see things changing in Lebanon, particularly in southern Lebanon. I was hopeful, and I'm less hopeful now, that the government was going to get on top of Hezbollah and stop them from rearming, but I don't think that's going to happen now. I think Hezbollah are growing in strength, and I think it's inevitable that there's going to be more rounds of violence, and I don't see how, other than Hezbollah changing their mission.
I'll say this, as like at least to this specific point to conclude it, because I fear it is something that we'll just go and take.
Oh no, we've lost them again. They're back.
Yeah, but I will say this, right, because I believe we've been going on this tangent for too long. It is hard to view, right? I recognize they are not pure. I recognize that they are not,
She scratched.
they're not infallible, but to an extent, at least from the other southern Lebanese perspective, they exist as a resistance group, as the IDF exists as a defense group to the Israelis. It's very nuanced, and maybe somewhere down the path, relations could exist, but as of right now, it's just like really opposite sides of the two coin, brother. Like it's very hard to come to terms with it.
I think ultimately what will happen is we will find a solution here within the land, and then Hezbollah will have less of a reason to brand themselves as resistance. If Israel clearly isn't expansionist, the Arabs and the Jews within Israel, Judea, Samaria, Palestine, call it whatever you want to call it, are coexisting. I think that's when peace between our people will come. But what I would say, I would genuinely we're enemies. We're supposed to be enemies, but Jazakallahu khair. May Allah reward you with nothing but goodness. I really appreciate the tone that you've taken in this conversation. It's very rare and is commendable. And so I've got nothing but respect for you. And inshallah, your family, your village, henceforth are okay. And this fighting is put behind us and our people know peace. Inshallah.
Hopefully so, brother.